Welcome back. Now, the Metropolitan Police have come under fire after dropping a cash for honours investigation into King Charles's charity, the Prince's Foundation. The case was opened last year following reports that one of its billionaire Saudi donors was allegedly offered help to receive British citizenship and a knighthood.
Today, the Metropolitan Police concluded that no further action would be taken, a decision that Republican campaigners described as appalling. Well, joining us in the studio is Sarah Hewson, TalkTV's royal editor. Very good to see you.
Lovely to be with you.
So talk us through this story, because it's nuanced, I think.
Yeah, this was a case involving Michael Fawcett, one of the King, then Prince Charles's most long-serving and loyal aides. He's the man said to have squeezed the toothpaste onto Prince Charles's toothbrush.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
And he was accused of having offered to help a Saudi billionaire achieve British citizenship and an upgrade from a CBE to a knighthood in the light of his generosity to the Prince's Foundation. That was a charity that Prince Charles founded in 1986. Now, it prompted global headlines, an 18-month Metropolitan Police investigation, and the Metropolitan Police have now said, after looking at 200 documents, interviewing people under caution, and speaking to the CPS, they're not going to take any further action.
It doesn't sound like a whole load of documents, 200.
No, and they did have to take action in order to seize those documents in order to do it, but there were no arrests, there were no charges, and they've said that they will review it should any new evidence come to light. But it has been heavily criticised by Republican campaigners who said they want now to have an investigation into the relationship between the police and the royals. The former Lib Dem minister, Norman Baker, as well, has said that this case was black and white. The Metropolitan Police have been accused of dishonesty. As for the palace...
Yes, I was going to say, from the King's point of view?
They have just noted the result of this investigation. They had always said that...
At arm's length.
Yes, the King founded the charity. He was president of it, but he wasn't involved in the day-to-day running of it. That was down to trustees, and they said he was not aware of any of this.
But at the end of the day, we've seen people get a knighthood for a lot less than donating to the Prince's charity. I don't know if it's... But, of course, Republic are going to argue that, you know...
Well, they'll use it, won't they?
They will use it, of course. And
I know where you stand. I mean, I'm a huge royalist, so I'm pleased it's concluded. But just in terms of this, is this the end of the matter, do you think?
There's also further action to be taken in Scotland. There's an investigation going on in Scotland over this, so it isn't actually over yet.
Right. And what about Harry, my favourite character in the royal family? I think, actually, the Invictus Games is, I think, his moment to reinvent himself. And there's a lot of talk about whether he and the King will be reunited, whether he'll be welcomed back into the fold.
Yes, and there have been reports that a date had been set, actually, for reconciliation talks.
Ooh.
And the date that was reported was September the 17th. That's at the end of Prince Harry's Invictus Games, which are taking place in Germany. It coincides with the King returning from Balmoral to London, and ahead of him going out to France. He's due to go to France on that rescheduled visit after it was cancelled earlier this year. Was that an opportunity for them to get together? Sources now have dismissed that and said it's wide of the mark. But look, I think as far as the King is concerned, there is a will to do this. They have always said the door's open to Harry, and ultimately he is his son. Yeah. But I think when it comes to William, perhaps it might be a bit of a tougher sell.
Really?
Of course, because of the accusations that were made in Spare, you know, that William had attacked him, etc.
Yes, you remember the dog bowl. There were accusations made against Kate. There was criticism of their parenting.
About Meghan making Kate cry and all that stuff.
Yes.
But also brothers row. I've got one. We row.
You don't write about it in a book.
I don't write about it in a book, and I don't publish it. No.
And to be fair, Charles...
That's a very good point.
Charles also wrote about he had a book written with his consent about the parenting that he experienced from the Queen and the late Prince Philip. So it's not completely unprecedented for a royal to speak somewhat ill of their family.
Him.
You know I'm trying to defend him.
No, I know you
Well, I think that, you know, at some point, I think we all hope that there can be some kind of reconciliation, but ultimately there's a real issue around trust here, because the last conversation that they had, Charles, William and Harry, was in the grounds of Frogmore after Philip's funeral. That ended up on the pages of Spare.
Opening chapter, I think it was.
And so I think if there are to be any talks in the future, there will be some pretty tough criteria around them that no family business gets out in the public domain.
Do you think Harry's had time to reflect on this? Do you think he's a changed man in some ways?
I don't think he feels, from the interviews that he gave around the publication of Spare, I don't think he feels it's his place to change. I think he thinks the institution needs to change.
I was just going to say that exact thing. Do you think that there would be any willingness from King Charles to apologise to Harry for everything that has happened over the past 5 years? Even if you think that Harry is the one at fault.
Harry's at fault.
Do you think that
Harry's
Prince
totally
Charles could possibly see the bigger picture here and go, do you know what? This is not going to move forward unless I offer that olive branch first.
I think an olive branch, potentially, and what Harry wants is an apology. We know that.
Yes.
He's said many times. But the damage, you know, those wounds run very deep.
Shall we move on and talk about France? This is an amazing story.
Yes, we've had a story today. There's going to be an airport named after the late Queen. This is Le Paris-Plage Airport, and it applied after the death of the Queen to change its name to Elizabeth II Paris-Plage Airport.
Are you amazed?
Oh, it's been given permission because actually it's not that easy to do it. You can't just do this. Yeah. And here, if you want to be a pub, the Elizabeth II, or you want to name your business after it, you have to apply to the Cabinet Office.
Really?
And
I had no idea.
Yes, yes. And you are only granted permission if there's said to have been a royal connection. And the royal connection is that a young Princess Elizabeth holidayed in Le Touquet, was very fond of it. Oh. And it's also in memory of her uncle, Edward as well, and his connections with France.
Oh, wow. That's a really nice story, actually. Very fitting indeed.
Absolutely. I really want to move on to this.
We love this story.
I saw this morning on Instagram and was like, we have to talk about this on the show. Tell us about King Charles and a letter he received recently.
Now, this was a letter that was written by the contemporary artist Hayden Case, and he wrote to Buckingham Palace to ask whether the king wore jeans. Does he own a pair of jeans? Now, I have to confess, I have never seen him in a pair of jeans. He's much more of a
corduroy
or chino, slacks, maybe a bit of tweed. But he received a letter, and you can see in his Instagram video here that he received a response from Buckingham Palace, and it was a really charming response. And it said that they could confirm that the king does indeed have a wide and varied wardrobe, and that he was most amused by your interest in
Does he have jeans? That's what I want to know.
He takes this as confirmation that he does have jeans.
No, it says wide and varied. It doesn't say jeans.
It doesn't say jeans.
No, which means there are no jeans.
And we've never seen evidence of them. I'd like to see that evidence. Now, Hayden Case has previous on this because almost 10 years ago, he wrote to Buckingham Palace to ask whether the Queen owned a pair of jeans.
Amazing. And any response?
Yes, which was to say she wouldn't personally comment on this. But he then turned it into an exhibition, Jeans Reunited, a picture of the Queen. Does the Queen own jeans? And then next to it was the letter he'd received from Buckingham Palace. So I wonder if we might be seeing a follow-up to this with the new letter.
So if he owned a pair of jeans, what jeans would they be? Would they be
they'd
Levi's?
be farmer jeans. They'd be high-waisted.
Jeans you can tuck into a pair of wellies.
Absolutely
Dad jeans, not skinny jeans.
Held up by Bayless wine, I think.
King Charles in a pair of skinny jeans.
He's very practical. He likes gardening. That's what he would do.
He also, I think they'd be well-patched jeans because he's a man who likes his sustainable fashion.
And
he does
good on
throw
him.
anything away.
Well, quite right.